Trans people have always existed, but our stories have evolved over time. It's a common narrative to say that trans acceptance has grown over time and that the past was exclusively a cesspool of transphobia and prejudice. But is this really the case, or is it just a misrepresentation of history? In 1953, Ed Wood released the first movie to explicitly talk about trans people. Can this shed some light on trans existence for this time in history? The film starts off with a message that it will portray the events objectively without taking a side, and that all participants actually are part of groups on which they are portraying. If that's true, I'd be quite impressed, because one of the issues with trans representation in media today is that trans people aren't involved in telling their own stories. Then we see Dracula going on a monologue.
Startling, because they seem new, sudden. But most are not new to the signs of the ages.
And then he does a science experiment of some kind. Walter White would be proud. Then we see Dracula looking over what I'm pretty sure is New York.
Pull the string. Dance to that. Which one is created for?
I am very confused.
A new life is begun. A life is ended.
That's quite a turning point. A trans woman named Patricia took her own life because she kept getting arrested for wearing the wrong clothing. She asked to be buried as a woman because she was unable to do so in life. This is one of the realities of being trans. We're just trying to be ourselves, but society keeps telling us not to. In 1845, New York made it illegal to cross-dress in public. One of the most famous was the three-piece law, which banned the wearing of more than 3 articles of clothing associated with the opposite sex. Take a guess as to when New York repealed this law. 2011. For reference, that was the same week Born This Way came out.
Coincidence? I think not!
Then we see new characters, Inspector Warden and Dr. Stevens, meeting to discuss what being genderqueer is for pretty much the rest of the movie.
We only have one life to live. If we throw that one away, what is there left?
First off, I find it hysterical that the doctor just moves the ashtray forward like he knows the inspector is gonna make a mess. And it's very rare to see a cop show, well, any sort of empathy for a queer person.
I think in the case that we're referring to, I need advice. Maybe it shouldn't have happened as it did, but it did. Perhaps the next time we can prevent it.
Let's get our story straight. You're referring to the suicide of the transvestite?
If that's the word you men of medical science use for a man who wears woman's clothing, yes.
So I'm not going to delve into the terminology because that's changed a lot with time, especially with what men of science called it. But it's important to clarify the terms I'll be using. Sex is about one's biology. This includes stuff like chromosomes and genitalia. Gender is about who one is as a person and their place in society. While these do overlap for most people, they are distinct. Trans people are people whose sex and gender don't match. So for me, I am a trans woman. My sex is male, but I am a woman in all practical ways. Unless you're my doctor or someone I'm trying to sleep with, my biology is really irrelevant. A crossdresser is someone who wears the clothing associated with the opposite gender. This means a trans person can also be a crossdresser. A trans man who wears women's clothing is a crossdresser because he's a man. However, the film only focuses on the experiences of white trans women and cisgender men who crossdress, so that will be the scope of this discussion. But as a white trans woman, I can talk about this from my perspective.
Yes, in cold, technical language, that's the word. As unfriendly and as vicious as it may sound. However, in actuality, it's not an unfriendly word, nor is it vicious when you know the people to whom it pertains.
I really like the lack of judgment found here. especially for the time.
Would the sex operation do these people any good? I understand you were quite prominent in a case that hit the headlines a few weeks ago.
The case they're thinking of is Christine Jorgensen. While she was not the first trans woman to receive gender affirmation surgery, she was the first to get publicity for it.
Strange as it may seem, even though it was a field day, as you so aptly put it, it's not a new story. Sex change has been performed many times.
Sex change is a bit of a misnomer, but it is a common term. In actuality, so-called sex changes just help someone feel more comfortable in their body.
Those whose sex can be changed, they're the easy ones. But what of those who so desperately want to be of the opposite sex, yet can't change their sex? Such as was the case with Patricia, the suicide.
I'd like to understand this, Doctor, as best you can tell me.
Alright, Inspector. There are many reasons a trans person may not get gender affirmation surgery. This can include cost and availability, or someone not wanting surgery. All should be respected and not take away from how someone is treated. Gender dysphoria is discomfort one has with their body or the role they are placed in. This likely led to Patricia taking her life. Perhaps a combination of not getting surgery, or more likely the constant everyday struggle to be herself. And there's Dracula again, for some reason.
No one can really tell the story. Mistakes are made. But there is no mistaking the thoughts in a man's mind. The story is begun.
I have no clue what the hell he's trying to say.
Why is the modern world shocked by this headline? Why? Once, not so very long ago, the people of the world were saying,
airplanes, why, it's against the Creator's will. If the Creator wanted us to fly, he'd have given us wings.
but we fly. Maybe some of you may still remember an even sillier remark.
Automobiles? Bah. They scare the hosses. If the Creator had meant for us to roll around the countryside, we'd have been born with wheels.
Silly? Certainly. We were not born with wings. We were not born with wheels. But in the modern world of today, it's an accepted fact that we must have them. So we have corrected that which nature has not given us. Strangely enough, nature has given us all these things. We just had to learn how to put nature's elements together for our use, that's all. Yet, the world is shocked by a sex change.
If the Creator had wanted us to fly, he'd have given us wings.
If the Creator had meant us to roll around the countryside, we'd have been born with wheels.
If the Creator had meant us to be boys, we certainly would have been born boys.
If the Creator had meant us to be born girls, we certainly would have been born girls.
Are we sure?
Holy sh**. I never thought I would be affirmed by a film in the early 1950s, but there it is. Now, I don't believe in God, but I've heard this argument many times that I'm going against God's wishes. If you believe this, I implore you to see a different perspective. Don't think of being trans as a mistake. Think of it as deliberate. I see my transis not as a mistake, but a journey to make me a better person. I was always trans, but hated myself for a long time because of it. I tried a long time to change that part of myself or to bury it, but nothing worked. I hated myself so much I didn't want to live anymore. I started my transition to feel any sort of happiness. It was transition or die. Transitioning made me a kinder and more empathetic person because I know what it's like to be at that low point. If I'm wrong and there's a God, I would thank them for making me trans. Being trans is not a mistake. It's a blessing.
Nature makes mistakes. It's proven every day. This person is a transvestite, a man who is more comfortable wearing girls' clothes.
Humans invented gendered clothing, though.
The term transvestite is the name given by medical science to those persons who wear the clothing of the opposite sex. Many a transvestite actually wishes to be the opposite sex. The title of this can only be labeled behind locked doors.
Because of prejudice.
Give this man satin undies, a dress, a sweater, and a skirt, or even the lounging outfit he has on, and he's the happiest individual in the world.
Maybe this is the autism talking, but they don't look too happy to me.
He can work better, think better, he can play better, and he can be more of a credit to his community and his government because he is happy. These things are his comfort.
So, cross-dressing is good for capitalism?
Most transvestites do not want to change their life, their bodies. Many of them simply want to change the clothing they wear to that is worn by the opposite sex.
That is factually accurate.
Glen is engaged to be married to Barbara, a lovely, intelligent girl.
But unfortunately, her father is a conservative senator, and he has 2 dads.
Those fingernails have got to go.
You know, I didn't realize they're as long as they are.
My goodness, they're almost as long as mine. Maybe even prettier.
This shows there can be gender policing, even by those who don't intend to do so.
You know, honey, you've invited me to dinner so many times in the last couple of months. It's almost like we're married already.
I wish we were, darling. It's been a long year.
For both of us.
But now, my studies are through, college is concluded, and I'm free at last.
That's very progressive for the 1950s. A woman putting her education before a man? What's next, women in the workplace?
Men's hats are so tight they cut off the blood flow to the head, thus cutting off the growth of hair. 7 out of 10 men wear a hat, so the advertisements say. 7 out of 10 men are bald.
You heard it here, men. Male pattern baldness isn't genetic. It's because of those damn hats you're wearing.
Hats that give no obstruction to the blood flow. Hats that do not crush the hair. Interesting thought, isn't it?
That's an interesting thought. Were you high by chance when you had it?
Just for comparison, let's go native. Back to the animal instinct.
Whoa-oh! We got a racism!
There, in the lesser civilized part of the world, it's the male who adorns himself with the fancy objects, such as paints, frills, and masks. The true instinct. The animal instinct. Bird and animal life. Is it not so that it's the male who is the fancy one? Could it be that the male was meant to attract the attention of the female? What's so wrong about that?
So they're talking about gender roles in an unspecified part of Africa and how that's different from sex. Albeit with a lot of racism and heteronormativity. Also, I just want to point out, this film did the opposite of what Matt Walsh did. In his documentary, What is a Woman? He went to Africa to support his claim that sex and gender are the same, by using ethnocentrism as well.
There's no law against wearing such apparel on the street, as long as it can be distinguished that man is man and woman is woman. But what is it that would happen were this individual to appear this way on the street?
That's an interesting point. Those who pass as strictly male or female don't get questioned. It's those who don't pass as strictly male or female that get questioned.
You're doing it now, laughing. Yet, it's not a situation to be laughed at.
Laughing at someone is bullying and wrong. Most don't laugh when a woman dresses like a man, but when a man dresses like a woman, it is seen as funny? Why? It's because masculinity is held up to such a high regard that doing anything unlike a man is seen as laughable. It's sexism.
Thus, the strange case of Glen, who was Glenda, one and the same person. Not half man, half woman, but nevertheless, man and woman in the same body, even though by all outward appearances, Glen is fully and completely a man.
That's an interesting choice of music. It makes it sound like they have DID. However, there are people who are man and woman. They are called bigender, and that is totally valid.
Hey, sister, let me borrow her dress.
You want to borrow your sister's dress? What for?
I want to wear it to the Halloween party.
There are names for boys who go around wearing girls' clothes.
Like femboy and adorable.
Oh, don't be silly, darling. You go ahead and wear your sister's dress, Glen.
That's a very supportive sister and mother.
You always did look much better as a girl than you do as a man.
Strangely, I heard the same thing when I started my transition.
Glen did wear the dress to the Halloween party. He even took first prize.
Hell yeah!
Then one day it wasn't Halloween any longer.
That's a big reality of being trans. In some settings, you can break societal gender roles, like on Halloween. But once it's over, you can't stop.
I wish I had the sight into such things to be able to advise you, Sheila. Maybe if you took the problem to a doctor.
This is why so many of us stay in the closet. We know we will be outed. We know people will try to change us. There is shame because it's something people think we should change.
Glen is not a homosexual. Glen is a transvestite, but he is not a homosexual.
That's true. The vast majority of crossdressers are straight.
I can't stand it any longer. He wears all my clothes. Nothing is sacred to him, even my briefs. He has every one of my sweaters stretched out of shape. Of course, he has always replaced them. But then, they didn't last long either.
Ending a relationship over cross-dressing can happen, especially with dishonesty. I'm not excusing it, but stealing or borrowing clothes is common for trans people and cross-dressers in the closet. No pun intended. However, it's important to recognize the why. We were deprived of it from society for so long, we do desperate things. The solution is to be more accepting.
Glen is engaged to be married to Barbara, a lovely, intelligent girl. The problem? Glenda, Glen's other self. The girl that he himself is, his other individual personality.
Again, why does the narrator make it sound like DID?
Isn't that a strange case? I wonder how some people's mind works.
Well, some people aren't happy the way they are.
I suppose so, but to change one's sex, that's a pretty drastic step to take.
If it's the only way, I'm for it.
I wonder what I would do in a case like that, if I were in the mental turmoil that person went through. Or if I suddenly realized that something was mentally wrong with you. Ooh, it's hard to visualize. Here we are. Two perfectly normal people.
This demonstrates a lot of the struggles about coming out or not. In most cases, there isn't an obvious green light or red light telling you to come out or not to come out. On one hand, she's empathetic to the struggle of trans people, but calls it mentally wrong and not normal.
Glen's problem is a deep one, but he must tell her soon. She's begun to notice things. His nails, his eyes when he looks into a ladies' store window. So many of the little things that are hard to hide.
Damn, she's observant.
Then there was the time Barbara was wearing the sweater Glen had always wanted to feel on his own body. It was becoming an obsession to him. He must have it.
This is painfully relatable. Some advice: this feeling of desperation goes away when you stop repressing yourself.
Come on, tell me, darling. Who knows? Maybe I can help.
That's just it, you could.
Then something is troubling you.
Yes.
Do I have a right to know?
You have a right to know. But let's just say for the moment that I'm afraid to tell you. I'm afraid I'd lose you.
Nothing could be as bad as all that. I love you and you love me. And nothing in the world can change that.
I hope not. I really hope not.
For those who aren't queer, just remember, coming out is hard, especially that first time.
Glen, is it another woman?
Yes, in a way. Dracula then releases a bunch of buffalo. Is pull the string a euphemism for coming out?
Always the same. He's not had the nerve to tell her. But he must soon come to some conclusion or forget the marriage. Should he tell Barbara of his Glenda now, before the wedding, or hit her between the eyes with it after, when it might be too late for either of them?
It's a tough call, but I think honesty is the best approach here. Barbra seems accepting, at least by 1950 standards.
The world is shocked by a person who changed his sex. Glenda is shocked also, but by another reason. Someone like her had the nerve to do something factual about their situation.
The pronoun situation is really confusing, but whatever. This is why queer role models are so important. They can help everyone see a better future.
Can I help you, sir?
Yeah. Let me see a nightie.
Please! It's also weird to see casual indoor smoking in public.
Well, we have this here. Would you like that? Something like this? As lace?
Yeah.
Perhaps he admires the material too long.
You can see how sheer the material really is.
I swear, this scene was exactly what it felt like for me in the closet.
Did you read about the guy that had his sex changed to a girl? Says he was perfectly normal, too.
How can a guy be normal and go and do a thing like that to himself?
All the same, it must take a lot of guts to pull a stunt like that.
That's a problem I don't ever intend to face.
Maybe it's a problem we should all face.
I don't get you.
Just think of the unhappy life. The miserable time this world of ours must have given that poor guy.
I still don't get you.
Now, here is a guy who wanted to be a girl. Supposing there had been no way to change his sex.
You sound as if you're really head up on this thing.
I guess I am.
Do you realize what would happen if every man in the country that wanted to wear women's clothes or felt like a woman went to their doctors and wanted a sex change?
Of course. That's why I say perhaps society should be a little bit more lenient with them. Maybe society should try to understand them as human beings.
I'm amazed. This film came out 71 years ago. It has empathy and compassion towards trans people. That's rare to even see today. We are human. And I feel like people refuse to see that. So then Glen talks to a cross-dressing friend, Johnny, who tells him he should just be honest. Johnny was caught by his wife, which led to the divorce, tells him not to make the same mistake he did. Now, this is where the movie gets weird. I'm talking Revolution 9 weird. Glen/Glenda envisions what coming out would be like, and well...
Beware. Beware. Beware of the big green dragon that sits on your doorstep. He eats little boys. Puppy ducktails and big fat snails. Beware. Take care.
This is from the nursery line, What Are Little Boys Made Of? Which I only know from the Powerpuff Girls.
Sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girl.
And in some great mime acting, we get to see the coming out nightmare, I guess? And Glenda is unable to rescue Barbra from a giant tree in the middle of the living room. But Glen is easily able to help because nobody can be a hero in a dress. Then we see the wedding, and you'll never guess who the best man is. Seriously, leave your guess in the comments. It's Satan! Then we have this trippy torture scene, I guess? I think this is a representation of dysphoria. Now, I can't show this next part on YouTube or TikTok, but you can watch it on my Patreon. On there, you can see an extended version of this video, along with bonus content to early access for $5 and $10 patrons. Thank you to my patrons, YouTube channel members, and TikTok subscribers. This video couldn't have been made without you. Then we get back to Glen/Glenda's fantasy, and is clearly tortured by a lot of demons. I have no idea who these people are. I think this is supposed to represent the trauma of being teased for being an effeminate boy, but I'm not sure. And then it's Satan, and he does something, and there's this glorious transformation scene where Glenda is powerful and confident. I think this is saying that Satan is good and should be part of our lives. As a Satanist myself, I kind of agree. We all need a little Satan in all of us. Then Barbra appears, but she turns into Satan? Are they trying to say she's the forbidden fruit? Then Barbra laughs at Glenda, a move if you ask me. Then there's a confusing moment with a bunch of hands and laughing people that I wish I could understand. And then Satan dissolves in.
Glen has decided to tell Barbara of his dual personality.
Good idea to do it as she knows them, and not to spring it on her with a different appearance.
His hands move to caress the smooth material of her Angora sweater, which he has so long and so desperately wanted to put on his own body. He tells of this to her, and she looks to the sweater and to his hand. Then, when it is all over and that much of the story he knows is told, Barbara is not sure of her own thoughts.
That's about it, darling. I wanted to tell you for a long, long time, but just couldn't bring myself to do it. I've been too much afraid of losing you.
Now that is one hell of a coming out, and it's okay to take time to process that. Then Glen meets Dracula, and something I wasn't expecting happened.
Glen, I don't fully understand this, but maybe together we can work it out.
So far, so good. Holy sh**. There are different kinds of allies, but I've never seen anything like this. Literally giving the clothes off your back to someone who just came out?
No. Transvestism is not hereditary.
True.
Well, what makes these men want to wear girls' clothes? Many things. But as I've said before, it usually starts in early childhood from one cause or another. Technically, each case has the same beginning, just a different set of circumstances.
That's a whole lot of gibberish.
Are any of them actually cured? Oh, yes, many, many of them. Once the source of supply is found, it can be stopped. Unless the patient refuses to cut off that source of supply.
As an addict myself, I can say it's absolutely not an addiction. The destructive behaviors come from the societal judgments, not the cross-dressing itself.
Then the way I get it, this Glen and the character he created, much as an author creates a character in a book, was invented as a love object to take the place of the love he never received in his early youth through lack of it from his parents.
Isn't that what they said about autism?
But to enlighten you a little further, there's the second story, that of an extremely advanced case. Let's call this person Alan. Ann.
I'm pretty sure that's a HIPAA violation, but whatever.
Alan had a mother who wanted a little girl.
Why do transphobes always think this is why trans women exist? Anyway, continue.
Alan did not enter the competitive sports that the other boys at the school did. However, he was an extremely studious boy and always had above average marks in his subjects. Yet sports, girls' sports, he always was interested in. But he was rejected by the girls and also rejected by the boys. It seems he belonged to neither of them.
Rejection is unfortunately very common for queer people. Also, what is it with transphobes and their obsession with trans people in sports?
Alan was becoming a woman and didn't realize it. A woman in mind only, but the mind rules.
People intend to ignore the brain when talking about trans people, even though the mind rules. Then they get drafted into World War II, and on the weekend trainings, they go out to town to dress like a woman.
In the suitcase, he had the things he loved to wear. That which made his body appear to be what his mind believed it was.
So she's a trans woman. But it turns out she's also intersex.
A hermaphrodite is one who has the organs of both the male and female in plain sight. A pseudo-hermaphrodite is one who has one perfectly formed organ of either sex and one imperfectly formed one that's difficult to detect.
That term is a little bit outdated, but the best overall term is intersex. Intersex means your sex characteristics do not neatly fall into male or female. It can also include chromosomes, and if you haven't had your chromosomes tested, there is a good chance you might not know you're intersex.
During the following 2 years, he would
to
go through the tortures of the damned, but never was there a whimper from him. Because he knew that at the end of it all, he would at last be that which he had always dreamed. Hundreds of hormone shots were injected into various parts of his body. Alan's face was worked on with plastic surgery to smooth out the female elements.
Frequent misgendering and dead naming aside, this is actually pretty good. For most trans people's transitions, that can involve hormones and in some cases facial feminization surgery.
Still, the hormone shots continue. Day after day, week after week, month after month. And And even then, when the operation is over, the sex is changed, the shots must continue as long as Alan lives.
First off, her name is Anne. Second, it's true that hormones tend to be lifelong. And third, sex isn't changed. It's a misnomer.
First, the breasts are brought out. The body of the woman within begins to appear now.
Yes, breast augmentation can be a part of someone's medical transition, but most trans women just grow their breasts with hormones alone.
Then comes the major surgery, the removal of the man and the formation of the woman.
That's not what these surgeries are for. These surgeries don't change your gender. It just helps you feel more comfortable with yourself. So wait, is Dracula supposed to be God?
Alan
and
at all his
her
life acted the part of the woman. Now
she
is that woman and must learn how it's done. Anne must learn how to do her own hair, how to make the correct styling for her facial contours,
and make a decent sandwich for her man. Seriously, this is all stuff that will come up during a social transition before any surgeries involved.
Yet, through it all, Anne loved every minute of it. Anne was indeed meant to be a woman.
This is so true to being a trans woman. It's a better life despite the constant sexual harassment.
Then you believe that the Glen of the first story should have the sex change?
In Glen's case, no. No, indeed. Glen would never be happy with a sex change.
The Alan of your story ended happy?
I'll tell it to you exactly as I told it to them.
You've already broken HIPAA already, so might as well continue.
Shortly after Glen told Barbara of his love for girls' clothing, he started treatments with me. On the last treatment, both he and Barbara came to me. I told him the same story of...
Even though it's completely irrelevant.
Glen's body holds only one sex, that of the male. In all our talks, I've learned these pertinent facts. Glen's father had no love for his son. His father wanted Glen to be a football hero or a baseball player.
But that wouldn't happen even if he wasn't a crossdresser.
Thus, the ruse of Glen's fictitious character. He invented it when he could find no love from his mother and no love from his father. His mother had hated her own father. Glen reminded her of her father. Therefore, she gave all her affection, love, and attention to her daughter. Glen then decided also to become a daughter.
What in the Sigmund Freud is going on here?
Glen, you can kill this fictitious character of yours anytime you wish. For your happy ending, it's the only way.
Why? Cross-dressing literally isn't hurting anyone, especially if he's being honest with his wife about it. Now, I know for some couples, this could be a deal breaker. But for those who make it work, it can make the relationship stronger.
Then you think I can kill this second character by transferring her qualities to Barbara?
That sounds very unhealthy.
Should I let him continue to wear girls' clothing? Or should I put my foot down?
Put your foot down, you'd only go behind closed doors. Love is the only answer.
So what is it?
Supposing Glen never gets over wearing girls' clothing.
Would it matter to you very much?
I love Glen. I'll do everything I can to make him happy.
Ah, happy ending.
Time passes. Soon, due to a happily married life, the remembrance of the psychiatric treatments, and Barbara's love and understanding, Glenda begins to disappear forever from Glen. Glen has found his mother, his little sister, his wife, and his Glenda, all in one lovely package. Thus, Glen's case has a happy conclusion.
God damn it! You were so close! You had to turn him into a hybrid of Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Anyway, thanks for watching, and cut.